Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz. He is Grindberg. I am bigz. We got Schultzy in the building, and I'm on vacation. What's up, fellas?
What is going on, everybody? bigz, you're on vacation. Where are you, really?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're here to talk about lightning not striking twice on some of these guys. We had some big seasons from some of the players in fantasy football, and it's not going to happen again. So let's talk about who those players are, shall we?
Let's do it. You want to get this party started, bigz?
So the first one I want to talk about is a guy in Cleveland named Jerry Jeudy. Now, Jerry Jeudy had the benefit of some injuries in the Cleveland Browns wide receiver room last year, and he did at what everybody kind of expected he was going to do. The problem is Cedric Tillman and David Njoku were injured for a whole big portion of the season. Now, you have a situation where Cedric Tillman, healthy for the whole year, David Njoku, healthy for the whole year, Jameis Winston leaving, Joe Flacco coming in. The relationship between Jerry Jeudy and Joe Flacco is going to be different than that between him and Jameis Winston. Expect Jerry Jeudy to fall off, especially with Cedric Tillman being the target leader in that offense. We saw that for a few games last year. Cedric Tillman is the man. Jerry Jeudy is an auxiliary piece. Don't expect him to have the year that he had last year.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting combination there. Yeah, we saw what Tillman did when they were both in the lineup, and yeah, he definitely excelled in those in those situations. And really, depending on who's going to be starting with a quarterback too, is going to maybe develop a connection there. I mean, both these guys have some potential, but yeah, Tillman showed some really big wow games last year, and I could just see it happening again here with the right situation. All the guys that are coming in the quarterback room seem to be kind of gunslinging mentality. So these are guys that can, step back in the pocket and throw. So I could see that being a very good advantage for Cedric Tillman. Now, I'm going to talk about a wide receiver as well, and I'm going to head over to Chicago, and I'm a little less bullish on DJ Moore being that dependable wide receiver too that he, has been grown to become. Last year he was pretty good. It was his first year with Caleb Williams, but things have changed a little bit here. Chicago has a stocked wide receiver room that it's never had before. Rome Odunze is ascending in that lineup. They went out and invested premium draft capital on guys like Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. And depending on who gets that coveted Ben Johnson slot role, it'll be interesting to see. And from what I see in camp and from what I'm hearing, it looks like Luther Burden's got that edge. We know that DJ Moore last year played a little bit of outside. He played actually the majority of his snaps last year on the outside. And, we'll see what happens. He's got that mentality and that physicality to play in that slot role. So we'll see how that camp battle plays out. Wide receiver 32 in fantasy points per game in 2024. He's being drafted as a consistent wide receiver to his ADOT, his average depth of target. It dropped by 2.4 yards last year. Caleb Williams, he was sacked quite a bit last year. The Bears did do a lot this offseason to stack up that offensive line, but I think it's going to take some time to gel there. So that might be, playing a little bit closer to the line. We'll see what happens there with Luther Burden. That red zone target could decrease, now that we have Colston Loveland in the matchup here. We got another tight end, Cole Kmet, that does command some of that as well. So I'm looking at DJ Moore to be in a fade this year, and a guy that I'm staying away from. I don't think he's going to repeat what he did in years past.
I'm pretty typically staying away from the Chicago wide receiver room simply because there's too many mouths to feed. I put out a tweet a couple days ago based on a conversation that we had last week about wide receiver situations where there's too many mouths to feed. San Francisco, Green Bay, Chicago. There's just so many different options, and you might look at targeting that quarterback, but to count on anybody in that wide receiver room or any of the receiving core from week to week is going to be pretty difficult for me. So I'm in lockstep with you on DJ Moore. We saw his decline begin last year. Now, the only thing about DJ Moore that gives me pause is his contract. He has a $27 million cap hit, which means he's not going anywhere. And in fantasy, it's good to follow the money. Who's getting paid the most in a building? And DJ Moore commanded that contract. He's hard to move off of for the Chicago Bears, which means that they're likely going to keep him as their primary target. It's not a one-man show. So I'm staying away from the Chicago Bears receiving.
All right, Schultzy, what about you? Who's your first target that you're not going to be drafting this year because you think he's on the decline? I mean, you may be drafting them, but you're going to be very skeptical of where you're drafting them and probably where they're falling. You're not going to have any shares of them anyhow.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Zach Ertz. Honestly, like this past season was like a huge resurgence for him after having some injuries over in Arizona, and came over to Commanders, had himself a great year, honestly. But entering his age 35 season now, we've seen this guy have a ton of injuries. I know you can't predict it, but for a dude who's going to be 35 this season with the history, that is a little concerning. He was second on the team last year in targets with 91, which, especially for tight ends, we love that. We love to see them be in the top two in targets for their team. I don't see that number being sustainable. Another number that's not sustainable, 7 touchdowns. It was the most in his career since 2019. I'm just looking for him to take a step back. We see them go out and add Debo. I know Jahmyr Brown, he had a little bit of a late season push here into the offense, and I think Debo is going to take that role, and they're going to utilize that. On top of that, a personal favorite of mine, Ben Sinnott, is going to come in hot, and he is getting ready to take these targets away from Zach Ertz. He's just a massive dude, great after the catch, and I see him taking on a big role this year. And then when you look at the offense as a whole, I think they're just going to, like last year, the targets were super, super condensed with Terry and Ertz. I don't see that playing out this year. Like I said, with Debo coming in, I still think Ertz gets some run here, but Sinnott's going to get a bigger role, and I think you're just going to spread the ball out more here in what's already a very low pass volume offense. So I'm looking for Zach Ertz to take a step back and not repeat the 2024 magic.
Yeah, I mean, all you said there about Ertz is like the situation, the decline, his age, all that stuff. It definitely plays into account here. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Schultzy. Now, bigz, who is your next guy?
This is going to surprise quite a few people, but I'm going with Jakobi Meyers, Raiders' big slot receiver. He has shown a very definite career arc. Every year after the next year is better and better and better. And I think that he's peaked. He finally had his first 1,000-yard season last year, working alongside Brock Bowers. You have to expect this Chip Kelly offense in Las Vegas is going to be better, but they have more targets now. They went out and they drafted Jack Besh, who's basically a Jakobi Meyers analog. Trey Tucker ran one of the most consistent route runners. He was on the field all the time. You have to expect that he's going to see a jump up in catches. You have Dante Thornton coming through the draft from Tennessee, who now gives the Raiders a realistic X. He's 6'5", 215 pounds. If he can add 20 pounds, he's basically Calvin Johnson reborn. They're going to be targeting him down the field quite a bit because Geno Smith is a very good deep passer. All of that, just like in the Chicago situation that we talked about a little bit earlier, is going to be pulling targets away from Jakobi Meyers. He's not the primary target getter in that offense. That's Brock Bowers. The other interesting thing that's been coming out of camp news is that they've been running Ashton Genty out of the slot some. He's actually running routes. He's doing out patterns. He's doing in-breaking routes. And Chip Kelly is just a mad genius. He was in a press conference where they asked him about the evolution of his offenses through Oregon and San Francisco and Philadelphia, Ohio State, UCLA. And they asked him if it's an evolution of his offensive ideology. And he said, no, it's a matter of me changing the offense to fit my players. That's not something that has been in Las Vegas for a while. And Chip Kelly is going to look at what he has on the field. He's going to design the offense around that. Yes, Jakobi Meyers is an important part of that, but Brock Bowers is the dude, and there are strengths all around that offense now, including, again, Ashton Genty getting targets. We saw in 2023 that he was a very capable pass catcher out of the backfield, and they just have a lot of things that they're going to be doing. It's going to be a Swiss Army type offense, and I don't think we can count on Jakobi Meyers to repeat the season that he had last year.
Schultzy, you got anything to say about that?
I am a little shocked here that bigz went with old Jakobi Meyers here. I think it's fair to say he's going to take a step back. I don't think it's going to be a huge step back, but if you're looking for the continual progression like we've seen from him, like bigz mentioned, yeah, I think you're out of luck there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to get into one of my next guys, and I'm talking about a running back here. I just don't think that workload that he's garnered is going to save him this year. There's some writing on the wall here, and I'm talking about Kyren Williams, and he enters 2025 with the reputation as an RB1, and I'm going to, caution our, listeners here to avoid him wherever you can, especially in those drafts where he's going, pretty high right now. His outreach, it's been fueled and driven by that explosive playmaking he had in 2023, that bell cow usage. Obviously, I think those days are gone and they're faded fast. And as 2024 season was a loud warning, his efficiency was gone, the workload, it was slipping, and the Rams clearly are preparing for life after Kyren Williams. Don't get trapped drafting the name instead of the numbers. We got to look back at these numbers. Yards per carry, it plunged from 5 to 3.8 in 2024. He only had 2 runs of over 20 yards. 30-yard was the longest, run of his 2024 season. It wasn't great. Outside the top 25 in missed tackles forced per carry, which is a huge metric that we really put a lot of emphasis on here on our show, especially for running backs, and that's a big one there. Outside the top 25 doesn't spell RB1 for me. He had 5 fumbles in 2024, and 4 of them caused the Rams the game. So that ball security issue is a declining skill set. And then you got to keep in mind what they did in the draft the last 2 years. Blake Corum last year, 2nd round pick. And this year they went out and got, explosive playmaker Jarquez Hunter, who I think is a sleeper. So, the writing's on the wall. I think his usage is going to come down. And I think Sean McVay is going to go towards more of a, spread out system in LA, and Kyren Williams is going to be a big fade for me for sure.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. They did. I mean, last year they got Blake Corum in. Now that with Hunter coming in, you're clearly right about them loading up for the future here. And yeah, we're going to see the dip coming at some point, and I can totally see it being this year.
What do you got for us, Schultzy?
I'm going to go over to some James Conner now. Honestly, there's not a ton to say on James Conner other than we've got a running back. He's 30 years old. We've hit that, that 30-year cliff. He had 283 touches last year. Don't forget about Trey Benson, man. They drafted this guy in the 3rd round, and he had a great career at Florida State. And I'm expecting him to get some more work here and be more of a timeshare rather than straight up giving it to James Conner all the time. I get that he signed a 2-year deal, but I don't think that necessarily means the Cardinals are saying this is still our workhorse, right? So I'm expecting Trey Benson to fold into the picture here. James Conner taking a step back. He's seen a ton of volume the last couple seasons, and that's just not sustainable for a 30-year-old running back.
No, I don't think so either. There, bigz. What are your thoughts on James Conner? Obviously, he's at the pinnacle. He's on the down slope. He had a couple great seasons. He's probably bound to, miss some time with some injury this year based off of his age. For me, he's a sell as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put your faith in a 30-year-old running back is basically the bottom line. We saw a very precipitous decline from Raheem Mostert when he came out and he finally had a full healthy season, had a ton of touches, had the best season of his career, led the NFL in touchdowns, and the next year his efficiency absolutely fell off a cliff. I can see a similar thing happening with James Conner. He has spent his entire career injured with very little injury last year, but a lot of touches, and I think the end is coming. In redraft, I'm not going to have a problem with rostering him. In Dynasty, I want no part.
Yeah, for sure. And in redraft too, as a RB2 coming into the year, I think that's a really good spot to have him in. I wouldn't be going in here as my RB1 with the base of thinking that he's going to, carry my team like he has in the past here. So before we get into our spotlights, if you will, Schultzy, let's get a run from our sponsor here.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Yeah, do that. New website just dropped. We've got an incredible merch store. There's a ton of really great merch, including fantasy forecast stuff, Dynasty Pulse stuff. Go get it.
You bet. Let's get on it. And you know what else is on there is our prestigious rookie guide. So
very prestigious, like the most prestige.
It is up there, right? I mean, and if you folks are looking for some, ideas for Father's Day, look no further than the merch shop. You can get our rookie guide for a low price of $7, but also there's a ton of great merchandise on the site. Like bigz mentioned, some forecast gear, some pulse gear, but we've got a lot of other great shows as well, but also some funny, analogy shirts and stuff like that. So be sure to check that out. Now, bigz, it's your spotlight. It's your guy that you are fading the most because of, they had a big year last year potentially, and now, you're not so much optimistic about their foreseeable future. And tell us why.
Hit that video.
We don't have it.
Oh. So I changed my answer. I did have somebody else pegged, but I changed my answer, and it's not going to make Schultzy very happy because this guy Schultzy in the Grindberg Invitational Dynasty startup that we are right in the middle of drafting, Schultzy made this guy his first pick. I didn't want to say wasted. So I have a concern, right? And this is less of a fade. This is just more of a let's temper our expectations a little bit. And that is with Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs, my namesake. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs finished last season as the RB1. And is that something that he can absolutely repeat? Sure. But here's the problem. He was in the Ben Johnson offense. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of difference in the new Detroit Lions offense. It's a coordinator who was there, and he's basically kind of like taking over the playbook rather than rewriting one. So we can still expect a lot of usage out of Jahmyr Gibbs. The problem is with David Montgomery. David Montgomery got hurt last year. Jahmyr Gibbs was the last man standing for a while. And when you look at what Jahmyr Gibbs did when David Montgomery was on the field, he wasn't RB1. When David Montgomery was off the field, he was absolutely the RB1 in terms of fantasy points per game. But when they are working in tandem, Jahmyr Gibbs slides back a little bit into RB5 territory. Now, is that bad? No. Does that mean that he's not worth a first-round draft pick in a dynasty startup or a redraft league or what have you? No. I mean, the man had 250 carries last year and another 52 catches on 60 targets. The usage is going to be there. That the Detroit Lions offense is going to run through Jahmyr Gibbs. The problem is the other aspects of that offense, including David Montgomery, who's kind of he's the hammer, and Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of he kind of comes into the background, and his efficiency is off the charts when teams are kind of bullied and battered because of Montgomery. So if we expect a fully healthy season from Montgomery next year, we can expect a usage drop from Jahmyr Gibbs. He slides down a little bit in my RB rankings. So I'm not changing my strategy as far as rostering Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just saying if you're trying to put together a weekly team where you're scoring a certain number of points, which is how a lot of us order our fantasy teams, I don't think we can expect the point totals that we saw last year from Jahmyr Gibbs.
And that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of things that were working towards him, especially in the latter half of this season, like you mentioned, when David Montgomery went down. And, there was a huge game stretch there where he was getting the lion's share of the work. And, I don't think you want to have Jahmyr Gibbs take on that kind of role throughout a whole season. It won't be sustainable. He's not built for that kind of pressure and punishment. And I think his role is great the way it is. He's a great RB1, but I don't think he's, unless an injury happens and they're forced to put him in that position again, I don't see that RB1 being a reality, like you mentioned, for all those reasons, especially the Ben Johnson departure as well. We have to definitely factor in there. Now, a guy for me, as my last fade here for 2025, and that's James Cook. And you know what? He lit up the scoreboard in 2024. That was his breakout campaign. He rushed for 16 touchdowns. He led the NFL. But don't let that box score fool you. His scoring outburst was less than dependable. In the last 2 seasons prior to that, he combined for 4 touchdowns. So if we're talking about an anomaly here, I'm talking about this situation. The touchdowns, they weren't the result of sustained usage near the goal line. They were a product of, efficiency that just won't hold up in 2025. A lot of those red zone touches were outside the 10-yard line, and he broke a run or two. We know that Josh Allen is that bell cow in the red zone, especially within the 5-yard line. They aren't going to veer off of his stature there, and another guy that's gaining steam after a rookie season that was definitely notable, and that's Ray Davis. He's got the trust there. He's got, an opportunity. He had about 20% snap share in the red zone last year, and that is nothing to scoff at when you talk about a rookie here. So with James Cook, he only had 10 red zone carries inside the 10. He led the NFL in long touchdown runs, so I just don't think that is sustainable. He never played more than 70% of the snaps in any game, so that's a red flag for me. And, Ray Davis averaged 16% of the snaps over the last 6 weeks, so his usage is going up there, and there's a lot of red flags here for James Cook for me, and I'm going to be steering well away from him, and I think you all should be too.
Yeah, that touchdown number, it's got to come down. I'm looking for Josh Allen to reclaim some of those, and they're probably going to give a few to maybe Ray Davis, but the touchdowns really carried him this year, and that's just not a number I don't think that can repeat.
So Schultzy, why don't you round off the show here with your last spotlight and tell us why?
All right, for me, my last guy is going to be some Chase Brown. Now, massive breakout here for Chase Brown last year. He finished as RB10. And the back half of the season was stellar, man. Like, I'm not even going to try and tear him down for that. Like, he was incredible last year, right? Some of that came after we lost Zach Moss for the season. And I don't think Zach Moss is a world beater, but when you look at the beginning and half of the season, this offense was clearly not set up to just hand the ball to Chase Brown as much as they were forced to down the stretch. And so I got this nugget from shout out Dave Kluge on Twitter. From week 9 on, when he started really picking up all the carries, he saw 96% of backfield touches. That's absurd, man. Like, you want to talk about things that aren't sustainable. I don't think there's a running back on any team other than maybe Saquon at this point who's going to command 96% of the backfield touches. Like, that's just insane. And when you think about that too, since he was second last year in team pass rate, this defense is still not going to be good. They might not have Trey Hendrickson, so they're going to have to throw the ball. And if they can command some leads, I think they're going to be looking to grind out some clock here, and they're looking to grind out some clock and win these games and not have to get in as many shootouts. And I think that's a big reason they drafted Taj Brooks. 230-pound back. I think we're going to look for him to get some early down usage and be that kind of grinder and bruiser in an offense that lacked that last year. He's going to see red zone usage as a big back. Chase Brown had 55 red zone touches last year and 10 of them at the goal line. So I think we're going to instantly see some touchdown regression off of Chase Brown given over to Taj Brooks just for the size and being able to pound through the tackles. And if you're looking at Chase Brown, starting in week 4 was when he started seeing double-digit carries a game. Now, it obviously ramped up even more after like week 9, but he started, from like weeks 4 to 8 is when they were kind of doing their true kind of timeshare stuff. So from week 4 on, he only saw more than 4.5 yards per carry in 5 games. And he had multiple games where he was under 4 in the 3s. He had a couple in the 2s. Like, he's just not an efficient back when he's running the ball a ton. Like, he was very volume dependent. I'm not looking for that to repeat based on Zach Moss coming back. And once again, I don't think he's going to light the world on fire, but I do like Taj Brooks in here as an early down red zone guy. The volume here, you're not going to repeat it. He's going around like RB13 in redraft, which is pretty reasonable. Like, I'd fade him back a little further, but there are a lot of people out there who are pushing for Chase Brown season, man, expecting him to be a top 10 back again. And that's where I'm not on board.
Yeah. The big hit was the Taj Brooks draft having higher draft capital than Chase Brown does. And that's one of the inside baseball things that we have to kind of look at. Usually, if somebody has higher draft capital, I'm talking to you, Brian Thomas Jr., the other guy that has the higher draft capital is going to be the one that they go to. It's a simple economic thing. When teams have high investment, they tend to utilize that player more. And unfortunately for Chase Brown, there's a higher investment in Taj Brooks at this point.
And when you take into account the draft capital in such a deep running back class, that spells out a lot, because when you compare the 2 draft classes from when Chase Brown was drafted to this one, it doesn't even compare. So, they're very similar in draft capital. They're very similar in how they match up on the field as well. They got very similar playing styles and stuff. So, all it takes would be, maybe Chase Brown to miss a game or 2 here, and Taj Brooks is the next Chase Brown, and we're going to be talking about him at this time next year. So it could just easily happen because they're not highly invested in a guy like that because of draft capital. And bigz mentioned it, hit the nail on the head there. Draft capital means a lot, especially for the running back position here. And I'm going to go with that. And it's a decent fade here, Schultzy. We may get a decent year out of him, but we're not going to probably get that running back 1 type of season that a lot of people are drafting him at this stage. So yeah, right on there, high octane offense, but there could be some competition there quite easily. So yeah, bigz, take us home like you always do, my man. Anything to plug on our end?
No, I mean, just the most prestigious rookie guide of all time, and a great website with fantastic merch. No big deal. I do want to say my Brian Thomas Jr. comment was merely me trolling Schultzy as a Jags fan. I have no ideas in my head that Brian Thomas Jr. is not the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. I think the draft capital given to Travis Hunter just means that they have the ability to play him at cornerback more than we would like them to. But with Brian Thomas Jr. in the building and Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. maintains that wide receiver 1 status regardless of where Travis Hunter was drafted. So I just wanted to make that clear. Other than that,
go
check out our.
On me. You're just picking on me because I started Gibbs and BTJ in that dynasty startup.
No, I'm not thinking. I'm just trolling. So yeah, go to Fantasy Sports Advice Network, fantasysportsadvice.com, and read some great stuff. Buy that rookie guide. Get some fantastic merch. We're growing very, very fast, and we're glad that you all are on this train for the ride. And we love you, and we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks. Peace out.